that I would make it. I was seen.
Hi, and welcome back to Empowered Voices, where we cultivate inner strength, resilience, and holistic well-being, guided by gentleness, self-worth, and unwavering faith. My name is Tanjika, and today here on the set, I have with me Victoria and Twanda. And if you were with us last episode, you know that we talked about uncertainty in uncertain times. And today we are going to talk about embracing resilience through resistance. And what does that mean? What does that mean to us, right? So resistance, let's start first by what resistance actually means. Resistance implies tension, it implies force, it implies opposition, it implies not wanting to do something that someone or something has caused you to do. Whereas resilience is choosing flow over force. Resilience is allowing yourself to heal, allowing faith to come in when fear wants to set in, allowing self-awareness to be in opposition of self-doubt and unwavering in the fear of the external factors that you have around you. So today, I want us to embrace and talk about how do we truly embrace resilience in uncertain times, in uncertainty, through circumstances that we have no control over. And what does what does resilience look like? What does it look like to you? What does it look like in the inside? What does it look like on your outside? So what are your internal factors of resilience? And what does your external factors of resilience look like? Because, we have to realize that regardless of how much we want to believe that our external factors don't, play a force of how we look at things internally, we have to understand that when we are able to be resilient as opposed to resisting the change or resisting what's going on, we have to realize that the external factors that guide us. And, of course, we want our internal factor to truly be the guide of everything. We want to lead with our internal factor instead of the external factor.
Right.
But how many know that we lead sometimes with our external factors? So I want us to reflect today on resilience that becomes a supportive inner posture when we release resistance and move by faith. We move by awareness. We allow our bodies, our emotion, we allow our spirit to recalibrate. We also embrace the space that we're already in. We embrace what is growing us, which happens without our permission sometimes. And, we also are able to embrace that growth without being overwhelmed. So today, I just want to truly reflect on what does it take for you to be resilient and not resistant to the forces that are on the external. And we'll start with you, Victoria. Okay. Well, hello. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. Listen, I think this conversation is so important, especially in this time, because resilience doesn't necessarily, I know like we have this idea of what resilience could mean, and it means to bounce back, right, in some form, to come back and do better and come back harder than ever, But resilience doesn't necessarily mean that we're pretending that we're not fighting for our lives. Right. So we have to change that narrative that just because I'm resilient doesn't mean I don't face struggles, that I don't face challenges every single day. I'm resilient, but the externals are still happening, right? Things are happening, right? It just reminds us that even when things are happening, that our rhythm doesn't have to break. And so I partner that word resilience with rhythm, because that's truly what resilience means, as far as having the rhythm to change your tempo instead of abandoning the ship and resisting things completely, right? Because resistance says, I have to fix this, but rhythm says, I'm going to flow through it. Right. And it's not a matter of, and I'll talk a little bit about like what it means on an airplane level, because I think that was so important. I was reading this book, or just skimming through it, really taking bits and chunks of it, Soar by T.D. Jakes. And I think that is what kind of helped me understand what resilience meant a little bit, as it comes to what it means up against those external factors that you were saying. So I'll start with, or I'll continue, I should say, with sometimes that hardship slows the hardship, the resistance of the things of the external slows us down to help us notice what we've been skipping a beat on. Some of us need rest. Some of us need to be reconnected. Some of us need more reflection, right? And so sometimes the wind is not just resisting us to stop us, or the stop is not important. The stop, the pause can be important, right?
Yeah.
We've talked about this in the very beginning of this podcast, that the pause of the power of the pause. So just because things are challenging doesn't mean that it's not trying to teach you something in that moment, right? So with reading that book by The Soar by T.D. Jakes, I learned and I landed on a few concepts that he talked about, and I want to share it with you guys. It says, before an airplane can soar, it must face resistance. The wind, right? It's resisting the wind, especially when you're going off ramp. Now, that same wind, however, lifts up that airplane and keeps its posture up, right? It's the same external factor, but it's looking at it in a different way. It's not stopping me from going up, right? Yeah. So it's going to continue. So that friction is still going to move the airplane up. So resilience, in essence, isn't about fighting, and it isn't about fighting resistance, right? It's more so learning how to use it to lift you up, right? One of the other things I took away from that was, when an airplane takes off, if you think about like structure and like pilots, right? It has a blueprint. There is a vision, there is a destination, there is a goal. Okay. Now, anybody experienced a delay in the airport? Right? So, of course, right? Anybody has experienced a delay in the airport. And why? Why? Because those things are necessary, and because they got to go back to the blueprint and say, okay, where do we have to fix so that we can get through this delay and get these people where they got to go, right? Does that change the destination? No. Does that change the vision or the or the purpose of the flight? No, it doesn't change the purpose of the flight. What it does is it brings it back, and that delay is important for them to structure in a way that is consistent, because most of the time delays due to what, weather or something, right? Well, now they have to figure out how they're going to maneuver. They're going to have to find their rhythm in the weather, right? And And so lastly, I want to leave us with the storm doesn't scare the pilot, and pilot being us. The storm doesn't scare the pilot. What it does, it reveals what the pilot has learned. So it reveals what you know.
Yeah.
And if you don't know enough, learn. Get back into it. Go back to your blueprint. Start talking to people. Connect. Do the things that it's not just you by yourself sometimes. You need a system. You need a body of people. You need something. So I thought it was important to bring that up and to reference that today, because the storm doesn't scare the pilot. It reveals his training. And so most pilots, they have to lead with composure, even when the storm is ugly, right? Or they'll have to delay to go back to the blueprint. I'm just summing up everything we talked about. And that air that is resisting the plane is the same air that is lifting that plane up. So that's how I kind of see, resistance and resilience, and how they can partner with each other, instead of one being a negative and one being a positive. Because I think that's the frame that we want to bring. I'm resilient. I'm not resistant. And it's just like, okay, but I am using both of those methods to bring me to a place that I'm trying to get to.
Wow, that's real good. That's really good. I wanted, when you talked about using the same wind that causes the force of the plane to feel of that lag, and that same wind is what catapults or expels the airplane. And when you were saying that, I was thinking, and it came to me about how in the medical field, when you get bitten by a snake, you use the venom of the snake to cure. That's the cure. So I want us to think about something really quick, and I just want those of you who are listening to think about this. What are you most resistant to at this point in your life? Look back in your life and see what has been most resistant. Because whatever that resistance is, then that's where your biggest strength lies. And we don't see it like that.
No.
We don't see it like that. And I was just bringing up a Bible verse. It's 1 John 2:27. But the anointing which ye have received of him abideth in you, and ye need not that any man teach you, and is truth, right? So, meaning that we already have everything, all the wisdom, everything that is inside of us is everything that we already need. It's just like when we talk about our hands. What's in your hand? Everything that you have in your hand is everything that you already need in order to be who you are, authentically you.
Yeah.
And so, in essence, when we are resisting instead of being resilient, who are we resisting? We are resisting what we already have.
Our own self. Yeah, our potential. And so, Twanda, I would like for you to just elaborate on what we were just talking about, and what, and what does that mean to you as far as the resistance, um, embracing the resistance as opposed to resilience, and chiming in this conversation.
Sometimes we as people believe that we think that resilience is being tough. It's not always being tough. It's not always being pushing through. Sometimes we have to understand that resilience isn't. It don't mean that we can't cry. It's not crying. You can't cry. It don't mean that you can't break. Because we can. We have to fight harder in the things that we're doing. Honestly, to be, that is not what resilience is. Resilience is, people think that, oh, I won't bend. Yeah, you can bend. You can.
Mm-hmm.
Feel free.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to fight the force because, you're trying to be resistant.
Right.
You have to, it's tight. It's exhausting. It's rich. It is what you make it. We have to understand that, resistance drains the energy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's
Rhythm
good.
restores it.
Real good.
You have to understand that you have to trust and allow things to happen in its timing, and know when to act and when to rest. You
Yeah.
gotta not be shaken by it. You gotta really not let it strip you. You gotta understand that you don't deny the pain. You move through it when you have resilience and rhythm.
Right.
Yes.
You don't fight the life. You flow with it. Rhythm is when rhythm has movement. It has rest. It has rise. It has a fall. It has a beat. It has a pause.
Yep.
Yes.
It's inhale to exhale. That's rhythm. Action, stillness. Resistance sounds like, oh, I can't break. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. We can. We all can. We all should. Every now and then, break to build ourselves back up. It's like the rubber band method. Rhythm sounds like, oh, today this is really heavy. Oh my God, what's really going on? Why is it so heavy? Sometimes it makes us move slower.
Yep.
Yeah.
It hurts. But we have to let it feel what it is. We have to rest. Resistance is stiff. Rhythm is alive.
Yes.
It's like the ocean. Waves rise and fall. The season's winter doesn't resist. Spring does. It's like the heartbeat. It beats in rhythms, not forces. We have to really understand what we're doing. We say resistance. Resistance is rhythm, not resilience.
Wow.
That's good. That's real good. I was just, contemplating on that. And when you talk about resistance and not having to have resistance, right? And being able to bend, when you specifically said about bending, that we're able to bend, and we are able to bend. And someone's like, well, oh no, I don't want to bend. What do you say, to that person? What I would like to say is that bending has its levels. And as long as your core values remain in place, bending is not negative. It is honoring the cycles of, it could be rest, it could be reflection, it could be re-engagement. It can be, you know, that you are honoring the challenge, that you are moving with that challenge, that you are not going against the challenge, which is bending. As long as you continue to come back to your foundation. And I guess a lot of times when people think of resistance as being negative, they truly look at it in that respect because they don't know their core values. So what are your core values? What are your core values? And then remember one thing, resistance is not a lack of faith. It can be faith asking for grounding. And
That's good.
recognizing that, you know, when you are resistant, you're still building capacity. You're still building capacity. I can take you through a personal experience of something that, you know, at one point in my life, I thought, oh no, I'll never do it that way. Right. But now I can look back at that point and I can see myself doing it the way that someone else had, you know, suggested. And that wasn't me bending my core values. That was just me realizing that there are other ways to do things and not actually resist. Because why do we resist? We resist when it's unfamiliar to us. We resist when it wasn't something, when it's out of our control. If you all saw our last podcast, then you know that we were talking a little bit about how, you know, inner strength in uncertain times makes us want to be in control. And, you know, we sometimes want to be in control of everything.
Yep.
And so that is one of the reasons that we tend to resist. This conversation is so good, you guys. It's really good. I just want you all to like, share, subscribe. Anyone who you know that may need to hear this conversation. I know you know someone that needs to hear this conversation. Victoria, do you have any other thoughts?
No, if I can just echo some of the things that I really want us to take away from this. I know a lot of this, when we think about this concept, we go back to the drawing board. And I don't think it's the time to do that. I think it's the time to use what we have. And you go back to your blueprint. And your blueprint is your purpose. It's something that's designed between you and God, and or whoever your higher calling is, right? But it's designed between you and the higher version of you, right? And so, you know, I think we don't necessarily have to wipe the board clean every single time. I think it's important to use those methods of resistance. I want to say this right. Of resistance that come against us as a measurement or as a tool to go higher. You know, the winds, we got to go with the wind instead of, or we have to accept the wind coming against us and use it to elevate ourselves. So, but yeah, I think this conversation can definitely go on for some time. I know that there's someone out there that's definitely like, wait a minute, I've been looking at this the whole. I wanted to mention something too that you had said. Why do we resist, right? And you started naming those things: control, huge, all those things, very, very huge. The other thing I brought to my mind is that one of the reasons why I know some resist is because they want to stand out. And that means that it kind of ties in with control of you just wanting to be the one with the answer and not receive, you know, others' input, right? And I think that
can be a detriment because God sends people to you as messengers, and we might miss our mark trying to do everything ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just want to bring that because this is a community and we are building
Yes.
community here. So
Any last thoughts, Twanda?
Well, you know, sometimes we have to ask our questions. Where have I mistaken endurance for resilience?
that's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I have to say.
Okay. Yeah, so what I like to say is that depending on the way you grew up, again, you know, we talk about this so many times, depending on the way you've grown up, depending on how you view certain words, certain things, resistance can have a negative demeanor to you. But I want to challenge you to look at resistance as a healthy demeanor. It's an inner boundary that reveals what needs attention. It's an inner boundary what reveals that needs support,
Yes.
or alignment, rather than something to overcome or to resist. And that, you know, you want to be heard, you want to be listened to, you know, listen to that resistance that you're having as wisdom, guiding you toward something new, sustainable, and honoring yourself, right? In a spiritual realm, I want to say that resistance can be understood as a gentle pause invited by the Spirit, and being led not to stop your growth, but to actually deepen your trust, your discernment, the readiness that you may have to go to the new level that you're going to. And lastly, but not least, ask yourself these things. Your resistance may be, because your resistance may be protecting you from something important. What is this resistance trying to take care of?
Right.
And if we listen to this resistance with kindness, what may it tell us? What might it tell us? So until next time, think about those questions. And again, like, share, subscribe. And I know you have friends, and I know your friends have friends, and I know you have family, and I know that your friends have family. So please make sure that you like, share, subscribe, and invite your friends and family to Empowered Voices. We love you and we thank you, and we want to have each voice heard, one voice at a time.
You never give up.
Bye, y'all.
Nothing's too far gone for the all-time God. You always show